Hello, everybody. Good to see you. I'm a little bit more on time. It's fascinating what it takes to get things going. I've had a lot of technological challenges. My cell phone broke. I dropped it on the ground. No doubt I was rushing to get things done. Um, and I like to think that I'm not attached to the cell phone, but it wasn't that bad, actually. So, a lot has happened this week, I'm sure. You've seen headlines and experienced things. And there's a couple of principles I thought we'd jump right into. And so I'm going to use technology here a little bit. So it sounds selfish to say, let's take care of ourselves first. But it seems that that's what we have to do. And we'll explain what I mean by that. If if I don't take care of myself, I really can't be there for anybody else. And rather than trying to change the world, like we have problems with, well, we have problems with the pandemic, we have problems with politics, we have problems with the economics, people don't have jobs. I mean, it's just kind of weird. And who would have thought then we'd have this horrific situation uh, with the murder of George Floyd. And then on top of that, who would have thought we'd then have riots? Well, protesting is great. I think it's really needed. But what I'm talking about is the problems, rioting. And now, really, it's very unsettling. So, doesn't it make sense to totally just take care of yourself first? Like, you have, well, if you want to do well, taking care of myself first seems to be really an important thing. Hold on to the things that you know to be true and have been time tested, so we can talk about these things. So, well, a lot's happened with media. People are watching the media. And now that I've been doing this for at least 3 months, I can tell what's going on. And I've known this before, but it's ever so clear that if it bleeds, it reads. It has to be something so catastrophic that that's what people will want to see. They don't want to see something boring. They may want to see something good news wise. That could be great. But yeah, if it bleeds, it reads. That's an old newspaper. So when the COVID numbers came down, quick, we got to make some catastrophe out of that. Um, I tend to watch all the media, as many media outlets. Maybe I should question that, but there's been some fake news on both sides where images are distorted and altered to make things look worse than they are. It's kind of like dysfunctional parents where one side is saying all hell's breaking loose, it's awful, run for your life, and the other one is shaking their head and saying, look, this is fine. The phrase I use as a therapist is when, um, yeah, someone's yelling, help, the house is on fire, and someone says, does anybody have any kind of um, supplies for making s'mores? We can make this into kind of a um, roasting of marshmallows, and that's just plain old denial. I need to look at what's going on here. Technology wise, something said I didn't have a good bit stream, so hopefully you're seeing this out there. Um, yeah, and there's a lot of denial. When things look really, really, really bad, people may not want to deal with that. They just want to go on as though everything's fine. I won't go into the specifics of it, but I think I know what you mean. I think you know what I mean. Unless you watch multiple media sources, you're not getting the full story. and even taking 3 different approaches moderately, you're going to see that they're trying to afflict your brain with some triggering your emotional system. When we are nervous or scared or stressed, we tend to go very binary. That's kind of how we are. We don't tend to think with the best part of our mind. And so it's really important to think with the best part of your mind, which has to do with, let's think things through. Let's think all the choices there. So I'm just being a little bit distracted from the lack of feedback I'm seeing on the screen there to try to get things going. So for instance, I may really care about what happened to George Floyd. I may care about the concern about certain police officers obviously not following the law, obviously having some kind of axe to grind. By the way, I'm surprised that the police chief isn't somehow questioned. Like, if I go to a store and I get the worst customer service in the world, wouldn't I talk to the manager? So I would hold the chief of police responsible for this. This is his crew. He did the hiring. He did the training. What's with that? And if that's, I would also hold the mayor, like, you're supposed to be in charge of the police force, and you need to be able to analyze what's going on. But I also care about other police officers that do a fine job every single day. And could it be better? Sure, it could be better. But if you look at the media, they've appealed to our, I'll say, animalistic brain or limbic system, which is very all or nothing. And so we should get rid of the police force altogether and start from scratch. To me, that's not even good mental health. It just isn't. It would be like saying there's some plumbing wrong in the building. Let's just tear down the whole blankety blank building, okay? Or there's problems in the relationship. Well, let's just get rid of the relationship, period. It's very all or nothing. And it makes you wonder if this isn't about something else. So at the same time, I can care about what happened to George Floyd. I can care about also improving the police department, but I can also care about, I think there's over 12 people that have been killed during these riots, but about their lives. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. All lives matter. And so here's the polarity. If I say that, and this I think is where people are afraid to say anything. If I say all lives matter, then it somehow turns me into a racist, or as if I don't care about Black lives. Well, I care about Black lives. So see the polarity going on with communication? It makes it really, almost use the word impossible, to have a communication with someone else. If their limbic system is overwrought, and my limbic system is overwrought, then how are we even going to begin to communicate? And I work with this day in and day out with 30 years. So if I bring up something that's delicate and sensitive, and sometimes people respond with, so you're saying my whole marriage is, no, I'm not saying that. Or are you saying I'm a bad person? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that maybe getting better skills could help. So that's not them trying to be defensive. That's them trying to just hear what I have to say while their limbic system is overwrought. Okay? So what does that mean? Or, well, so let's talk about some other examples, like the pandemic. yes, I care, and I cared about the people who were um, losing loved ones, and I cared that the healthcare workers could have a whole nightmare on their hands, and some of them was much worse than others. Some people, their skin was rubbed raw with all the personal protective devices that they had to wear. But if I say, I think it's also important that people get out and make a living, we have to do the proper things to make things safe, but we need to live our lives. People might then polarize and say, oh, so you're saying that you don't care about anything and you want grandma to die. No, I'm not saying that. So that's the thing. We could call this immature thinking or mature thinking. And I'm just going to label, I think mature thinking can embrace two things that seem opposite of each other. And I'm not sure social media is the best platform to be able to have discussions because there's not much tone of voice. People tend to write something and then push send or enter, and then it's already there and they can't take it back. Sometimes you can go change it. I would say those political leaders, if they could not be so polarizing, that would be great. What is the solution? Trying to provide comfort, trying to listen to each other, trying to calm your own self down, trying to look at what part of what the other person is saying is true. If you can't do that, my guess is either there's a spiritual problem, well, there's maybe three. There's something spiritually going on that's blinding you or blocking, deafening you so that you can't see and hear what the other person's saying. I think it's really important for us each, all of us, to open our ears, open our eyes, and just try to hear what other people are saying. I thought of this, try to watch or listen to what someone has said from, we'll say, the other side, something beyond your comfort zone. And think of it as medicine. Think of it as like a bitter piece of medicine that you need to take for the sake of your health. It doesn't taste good. It doesn't fit within your frame of the worldview, but it's probably good for us, really. Is it terrible to just listen to what someone else is saying, considering that it's reasonable? We don't have all the time in the world, but I think it's important to look at that. The other thing that happens that blocks us, well, the limbic system can block us, the spiritual, or we have a personality disorder where we just don't do empathy. We just have no concept of an other. It's really maybe narcissism where we're just in our own world and we just believe what we believe and we see things how we see things, and there's just not an ability to listen to someone else's pain. I think we'll be best if we listen to another person's pain. For instance, there seems to be, and how do I get into this uncomfortable conversation, but I think it's important to chance it. I don't know what it's like to be a black person. I don't know what it's like to day in and day out walk into places and have people interact with you different than if you were white. And perhaps there is teaching or education or a mindset that has caused us to view the world in that I had not the best start in life because I had social systems set up to where it's just kind of against me. Okay. Um, I'm going a little bit vague so that we don't get bogged up into the details. There are other people who are black I know that say that's kind of nonsense. The thing is, we are our own limitations. We, who doesn't have limitations? There are people that start off in this life with a raw deal anyway. So whether it be something that was racism in our ancestral history, or whether it's economic, we just didn't have a long line of people making money, or we had people smoking pot where they just didn't really want to give you the opportunities that you should have gotten. I mean, that happens. I've known people that didn't really get the good education they needed because their parents just weren't there for them. But in spite of all these challenges, they rise up and decide they want to have a good life, and they do. We see that. So it would be easy to side with one or the other. But is that going to help something? Because if I just side with, well, get up off your, get up out of your chair, pick yourself up by your bootstraps. It's really good to just go for this. Don't be a victim. And I'll say that is kind of my bias, is don't be a victim. But is there a time and place for comfort for the oppressed and to look at things from the victim's point of view? I wouldn't use the word victim, but I would use the word, because it's, for me, it means the mindset that I blame others for my circumstances rather than take responsibility for my own life. I think of it as deadly. There are lots of people who struggle with anxiety and depression, and how are they so hurt by their own mindset, really? And if a whole society, or maybe a whole political system, helps you stay in that, it makes it worse. Now, if this were the case, and I just go at things like this, how am I going to help anybody? I'm not. I need to step into the shoes of the other and see things from their point of view. I need to see that what it's like to be there, what it is like to feel the pain or to have resentment or a grudge. And then when something does happen where someone doesn't seat me first, or they look at me like in a department store, like with suspicion, I sense that that's part of the color of my skin rather than um, something else. It's just there. I've had many discussions with people, some of them clients, people of color, and what happens is they do say, Eric, you don't get it. You got to understand, from our point of view, they treat us differently. And I don't know why, well, maybe my own sinfulness, but I'd say, well, I just don't see that. I don't feel that. But part of it is I'm going by my set of rules. Like, I'm going through my mindset that I would never want to mistreat someone of color. And yeah, I just wouldn't. I mean, it's not that I haven't unintentionally, but I just wouldn't. So I was Pollyanna-ishly thinking that that's the way the rest of the world is. And if I get stuck in my mindset, I'm just not able to hear it from the other side. That's the point I'm making. Good mental health will help us to see both sides. We don't have to even agree with it. We just have to be able to experience it, so that there's not only a bridge, but it's good for my thinking. Rigid thinking is a sign of fear. Yeah, and there are things that I believe about my faith or the world in a pretty dogmatic way, and it's from years of experience of a certain thing. And we'll talk about that. But holding on to things in fear means I can't even look to see how it might not be true. Okay? That actually is good science, to be able to look at how something isn't true. And some of the people that hold on to, whether it be evolution or a certain thing, they just hold on to it. And you got to consider that at least that the opposite could be true. So we're talking about getting our brain in a good place. Take care of yourself first. Focus on what you can change, not what you can't change. So I can change my own mindset. I could start working on my own level of racism here. I could work on my own level of riotous behavior or stealing or um, anti government. I don't give a rip. I could look at my own divisiveness. I could look at my own changing the facts and trying to win people over by Photoshop or trying to manipulate my audience. And I'm not trying to manipulate you. I'm just saying that it's a good place to start with self. If everybody's trying to change everybody else but not willing to even look at their own self, I think we're going to be in trouble. People do well when they take personal responsibility, kind of changing the only person they can change first. That's usually inspiring to help others. Otherwise, it becomes hypocritical. Take a deep breath and chill. This is important. I think it's really important. Breathing, just slowing down. Yeah, notice if you're breathing or not. Being in the moment. Feeling what's going on, honoring what's going on inside us. If I eat some food and it doesn't agree with me, I use that as feedback not to eat that food or not so much of it or whatever. If I'm watching certain media or hearing certain things that are alarming and it's just too much from my nervous system, I need to listen to that. I need to be able to not collect more and more stressful information because I just won't make it a good decision. Say, like I'm a surgeon, I need to do surgery, but I learned that my wife is in the hospital. She got into a car accident. It's not the time to do surgery. I have to pick one or the other. And I fear, and I see good news. I'm not seeing terrible examples, at least in my work, of this. I'm seeing some, but not as bad as you would think. But we could make some bad choices that could come and hurt us in the end. In fact, I think some of the rioting is a response to too much government control where people have been told to stay in their homes and to do all this stuff. I think it was an outlet um, for anger. I think it was. I think it's more than that. I think obviously people were protesting about social injustice and discrimination and prejudice and racism, but I think it's more than that as well. Um, the let's see here. Let's go to the list. There it is. Sorry. Get in a good place emotionally and thinking wise. Um, this is all part of the slowing down and trying to think things through and pray things through. Um, be in a good place. If it means taking a break from the media, the world is not going to fall apart without us knowing. I do think it's addictive in a strange kind of way. It's similar to addictions that kind of are like cutting or self harm. We get addicted to the stress, and we aren't then realizing that it's numbing me. It's numbing me in a strange kind of way. In a good place, I might be able to help other people get in a good place. And if people all start to get in a good place, we can actually problem solve. This goes way back to when I was a counselor for a crisis line 30 years ago in college. And I never forget it because I use it all the time. Well, I use it in work all the time, maybe not at home. And I'll admit, maybe not even at work, but I'd say that I try to. The principle is deal with the emotion first, then problem solve second. too many of us try to problem solve while there's still an emotional thing going on. So if someone called and said, I'm really suicidal, I can't take this, it's just horrible. If I cheerfully say, hey, wait a minute, stop, let's think rational. You're going to be fine. You just need to get past this. There's other things you can do to make your life better. You could get another job. You could move. It does not work. People like to be validated for the emotions that they have. If they're feeling sad and it's the end of the world for them, it's really important to honor that and to get into the place where you know what it's like. And so you might say something like, you know what, I'm sorry to hear that it's that difficult for you, that you feel so down and out and scared. That's got to be rough. Just hearing those words help. And hopefully we say them sincerely, but people feel better. I've seen maybe 30% of the people, just if you validate their feelings, they kind of problem solve themselves. Why do we use the word validate? It's kind of like the validation sticker you put on a parking thing. You just have to reflect back what you hear them saying. And this one simple principle, not that I don't think that there's spiritual reasons, if we could just validate each other's feelings, just saying, wow, obviously someone didn't listen to someone because now there's rioting in the streets. And maybe there's something, I shouldn't say rioting, it's more looting and stealing, and there seems, but let's just stay with protesting. If we didn't listen at one level, protesting happens. And if we discount that, we're in trouble. Because what is the next level? We have to have government leadership that has empathy. Really, really strong empathy. And it appears that they have very little empathy for the right or the left, which is a concern. Here I'm speaking in broad painting in broad brushstrokes, because the reality is these are the players that we see on the news all the time. What about all the other, let's say 30, 40, 50, 60 representatives or even more senators? We never hear them. Maybe they're decent people. Maybe we're just getting the tip of the worst, okay, or the best, however you want to put it. I wonder how many of us are moderates, and we really want more of the same thing, but when we see the news, they don't offer a moderate menu item. It has to be catastrophic. And we go, oh my gosh, that's too left. Oh my gosh, that's too right. That's, it may make some of us just very passive. I don't want to have anything to do with it, but I think that's a problem. I think we need to talk more with our best kinds of brain going on. But yeah, if we gave emotional validation anywhere, I bet it would calm down some of the people. It works in a family. If you don't acknowledge the pain and suffering, you're going to have problems. I have people who have experienced sexual abuse, physical violence, emotional abuse. It's horrific. And they don't say it all the time, but I say it usually, is half the problem is that it's discounted. Like, what are you talking about? We're not dysfunctional. We're fine. We're perfect. You didn't do that, or you probably caused some of that. You shouldn't have done that. That adds insult to injury to insult. It makes it worse. It makes it very dysfunctional. So if people are experiencing violence, pain, suffering, and to not have any kind of emotional connection with that, we're just going to give the latest political thing or post the next political agenda or information. It's just not what's needed right now. I think people need that kind of comfort. They need that validation. Do they really need more information? I'm not sure about that. I think information's powerful. I think other perspectives are powerful, but I also think emotional validation. When people are emotional validated, they will often automatically move to problem solving. Yep, this works in family situations, business meetings, yeah, even addiction recovery. When people have addictions, the nature of addiction is I don't want to feel the feelings that, so I just keep on using my drug of choice. If this was my precious, then I'll just use more of this. But often we'll go to problem solving, try to make it go away, and it gets worse. I see this with families with mental illness. We know that if people experienced um, a safe environment just to have an open dialogue, people begin to get better. In fact, for those suffering from bipolar or schizophrenia, look up open dialogue. In Finland, they have an 85% success rate. They use talk therapy, not medication. Medication just numbs. So we seem to be having this bit stream thing. I don't know what to do to make it any faster. It appears that things are good, but I can't see that it's good, and I'm not seeing anybody chat. So if anybody wants to chat to say hello, then I know that at least someone is there. Let's look at... I'm sorry, I'm going to get to my screen here. Let's look at something. There is a book which I've mentioned in a couple of streams ago by Henry Nouwen. And again, I don't remember the title, but he talked about the word spiritual imperative, and it made an impression on me. These are the things that you know to be true beyond a shadow of a doubt. When you're weathering a storm, holding on to something you know to be true is really, really important. So, for those who have faith, knowing that God is loving, knowing that God is kind, He's patient, He's merciful, He does not wish ill will on anyone. There are truths that feel like they grate against our soul, but we know them to be true through faith. One is that all things will work together for those that love God and are called according to His purpose. So that means that things that don't look good at the time could end up being good later. Another good one is God's merciful, patient, and kind, but He's also going to judge us. He also chastises us. He also, at times, punishes us. That's a strong word, maybe not politically correct, but it is in the Bible. But we have to see punishment as good. We probably use it as discipline now, because it's just about words. Are those two both true? They are. Yeah. All or nothing thinking or immature thinking would make God all bad, and that God needs to give me everything I want, and if I don't get what I want, then He's somehow a monster God and I won't serve that. Or God gives me everything I want, and I'm very happy, and I just get everything I want. The problem is when hardships come, persecution comes, when people even suffer for their faith, have to endure difficult trials, temptations, then people freak out because they go, well, this can't be God. This is not the God of my understanding. That's right. We have to be at a place where more mature thinking is to set aside our ideas of who we think God is. I do like this prayer. It's called the set aside prayer. God, help me set aside everything I think I know about you, everything I think I know about myself, everything I think I know about this disease, meaning addiction, and everything I think I know about the steps. Grant that I may see you as you really are, myself as I really am, the true steps for healing, or the disease as it really is, and the true steps for healing. So this could apply to any situation. Help me to see the situation for what it is, not what I think it is, not what the media has told me. I think there's great value to spend more time in prayer, learning about how to handle this rather than watching the media. I'm not convinced the media is going to help as much, and politics is going to help as much. I think good people who are connected with God will help make a change. And each person can. I do fear that if we're praying and saying, God, direct me, give me the power to do this, maybe some of us are going to be part of the solution. Maybe, not to be prideful, but maybe someone out there is going to come up with something that's really going to help and make a change. I do take comfort in history. I've been reading, and not reading as much of watching TV, but some reading, looking at things of how our country went through difficult times, whether it was pandemics or racism or the struggles against social injustice of the 60s. Those brave heroes like Harriet Tubman. There was a woman of faith. We saw a documentary as well as the movie. Very good movie. And it was really about her faith in God, where she was going to rescue as many black slaves from slavery, getting them to freedom. And it brings tears to your eyes because no one really believed in her. They said, well, you can't do this. You escaped yourself, but you can't keep going back. And she kept going back, and back. Think personally it was 300 plus, and then she, during the war, was actually part of the military thing to let as many slaves get out, and they had whole troops there to get them safely across. So that was into the over the thousands. That was pretty cool. Very good movie. It makes you feel like a weakling, like I am so selfish, like I'm in my own world. This woman gave up everything to do this task. She didn't really have, you just have to see the movie. So that's what, we take care of ourselves, then we focus on what I can change. But I let go of what I can't change. And I do think the enemy tries to get us paralyzed with fear, focusing on things that are beyond our control, all the while keeping us from doing the things that we could do that could change. I think the most important principle also is for our souls to change, for our souls to be healed, one person at a time. There seems to be spiritual attraction that happens when we do this versus promotion. We have really gotten to a funny place in the world. It's not so much funny now, but someone brought this up, and I somehow was using humor. And it doesn't mean I don't care. Here's a good example of this. Mature thinking is you can laugh about something. It doesn't mean you don't care. I do care. Yeah. So we were talking about therapy dogs and how valuable they can be. And we now see them we see them in a lot of places. I see them at Home Depot. Lots of dogs roaming Home Depot. And you begin to wonder how many, and I was making jokes about my pit bull or my Rottweiler is a therapy dog. He helps me get revenge. Um, and then he mentioned that a woman was denied bringing her therapy peacock on a plane, and it's like, are you kidding? A therapy peacock? I mean, I pictured the fan. I mean, I just couldn't, and we were just cracking it up. And so I just had to look it up. It was funny because this, um, and sure enough, it's hilarious. Like that, and they paid for a seat, and they were told by the United Airlines 3 times, sorry, no, you can't bring a peacock on the plane. Again, this was a couple of years ago before COVID and before a number of things. Now we're just lucky to get on a plane. But see, this is where we've gotten as a society, like everybody wanting their own rights and not thinking of others. Well, here it feels like I'm judging this person, but how is this bird going to fit in a seat? Um, by the way, how does a peacock provide emotional support? Okay. Um, so, oh, and it's funny because the wording said something about due to, there were a number of reasons why they denied the peacock coming on the plane. Um, the peacock did not fit the weight and size constraints. Well, sure it didn't. I mean, can you believe this? I'm buying a ticket for my peacock. So did they put the peacock's name in? An ID? Yeah. So anyway, I mean, I want to bring my therapy pig. Well, then all the vegans run off the plane, so we are so sensitive as people, and we want our way, and we're just not used to being told no, and she's going to sue them, at least back then is that what was suggested. I might have that story. It was told by the person who told me that she was going to sue. I didn't see that in the article, but I didn't look for that either. So, here we've been talking about stretching myself to the other side. So, when I saw a video of it, I did see that this huge peacock was on this person's shoulder. And who am I to judge that they don't have such a great relationship that it's not a therapy bird for this person? They also said, I'm sorry, there's no therapy snakes. This is United, no therapy snakes, no therapy spiders. Anything with hooves are allowed on that plane. So, both are true. I can care about someone's relationship, even though I don't get it. I can learn to care about it. But I understand that the other side is problem solving. You can't, well, I mean, maybe they should make more seats, for pets. Maybe they'd be better behaved. My joke is, don't you just look at a peacock wrong and they lose their feathers? They seem to be pretty scared and nervous and uptight. My wife says, well, they're pretty loud on a plane. Can you imagine that? They are loud. Yeah, and yeah, I'm taking my peacock with me. Anyway, enough of that. Let's go back to our list here. Yeah, we're talking about things that are polarizing, media and people. It's as if we have a certain energy level. Thoughts and words are energy forms. Spiritually speaking, if we're into Christianity, we'll see that Christ's word has an effect on us. It will not return back void. It means that it does have an effect on it. Either we really reject it or we embrace it. God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit created the world with Word. Jesus is called the Word. This Word aspect is really important. And if we listen to words that are lies or stressful or fear-mongering, contentious, blaming, belittling, humiliating, I'm more right than you are, that I think affects us. I think it upsets our stomach, our digestion, muscle tension, jaw pain, headaches. And some people say, I don't want to listen to that, and probably rightfully so. I think what tempts us to want to listen to it is just to see what's going on. And we have to wade through that. So again, and here's another appeal just to try to get unbiased news. But social media, I've spent some time on social media, probably more than I wanted to, well, more than I should. I will admit it was probably my own arrogance that thought, well, if I post something, this might help someone. And maybe the same people say yes, and the people that could benefit it don't want to hear it. Maybe they're not following me. It's kind of like mechanism-wise, it's not the best form of communication. And then on top of it, you have Facebook themselves using algorithm that manipulates the conversation. It's really hardly a conversation. We probably would be better off having town meetings where civility, love, patience, trying to understand each other would be really good. It's not that social media hasn't given me some good books to read, but I found myself polarized on it. If we took away social media, what would happen? And I'm not saying, again, we have to defend ourselves lots this day and age. I say something and then I have to say what I'm not saying. That's just the world we're living in. But if we didn't have social media, we probably wouldn't get some of this information so fast. We wouldn't get everybody's opinion on it so fast. We might not be, and people we know wouldn't say some of these things in real life. They just wouldn't. They'd be more quiet, patient. That's why when I do post something, if I was sitting at a round table over lunch, I might try to post what I would say there. And either the person would receive it or they wouldn't. But the problem is they don't know my tone of voice. And if other people jump on and then say things that I'm not saying, but see, if they were there at the round table, they could say it, and I would just listen. But I think we'd all be softer and kinder in real life. So, is this good for us? Could we save our country by backing away from social media and doing something different? Maybe working in our own community, trying to end discrimination, prejudice. See, prejudice is really judgmentalism. It's judging someone based on your thinking, well, they're a doctor, so this is how they are, or they clean up the streets and parks as a person who's cleaning up litter, so they must be a certain person. And then any kind of color or race or religion, people have prejudicial ideas of that. It's just kind of the way we're made. When I say prejudicial, I don't mean good or bad, but if I go see the couch back there, I don't have to re-experience, oh, that's a couch, wow, or it's green and can I sit on it? No, we automatically go do that because I've had hundreds of experiences with couches. So what happens is our brain does tend to want to generalize. And if we have good experience with a teacher, then maybe all our experiences are good with teacher, and we have a kind of blanket generalization that I love school. We may have that just because that's our disposition, but then I may have a bad teacher. Either that will that'll change my perception that they could be good or bad, or I minimize it. It could be just how I'm hardwired, that I'm just going to minimize. Well, it's not that bad. I look for the good. The opposite is true. If I'm prejudicial in the negative sense, looking for negative, looking for fault, that's what I may find. And I can find evidence for that. I mean, that's a key component. That's a truism, by the way, that what I focus on or how I see the world through certain lenses is going to affect things. So racism is just the judgmentalism, where it's turned towards a certain race, thinking that that's how people are. It's a subset of a bigger problem, which is judgmentalism, criticalism, prejudice. And so the opposite of that is tolerance, open mind, not putting everybody in a pigeonhole. Yeah, you could do this with people with bipolar. Well, then your brain starts to go, well, this is how they are. Or schizophrenia, this is how they are. No, I think we're best when we just try to find and look at the person in front of us. Yeah, this brings up a good story. I think it's okay to go on a tangent. There is this story, it's quite famous, but I'm not sure where the origin is. But there's this girl talking with, I think, an Orthodox priest, Orthodox Christian, and he's trying to figure out certain important questions like, what's the most important person? What's the most important time? And what's the most important task? And this young girl says, oh, well, that's easy. The most important time is the present. There's nothing we can do about the past. There's nothing we can do about the future. All we can do is be in the present, and that's where we find God. The most important person is the person in front of you. And the most important task is to love them, as God has loved us, to love them with all your heart. Boy, that's simple, but it's probably true. That's probably, if we did this each day, to whoever's in front of me, even if they're trying to steal my goods, even if they're trying to do ill will, my job is to love them, whether I want to or not, because that's what will help me find God, is loving my enemies. Saint Silouan, who's an Orthodox saint, says really a true Christian is marked by their love for their enemies. Yeah, I would recommend that highly. And I think, I could get away with only loving those who love me back and think I'm good. That's the problem. Jesus even speaks to that. He says, what good is it if you just love those who love you? We got to love those that aren't that lovable. So how do we do that? With prayer. Start with prayer and start in the moment. And if you meet them right face to face, really important to do that bravely, courageously. You'll find God in that experience. I have been concerned, I have a 2-mile trek to work. I'm on wheels and driving, and this highway has been so, people just drive too fast anyway. We'll lock them down for 3 months, take away their sense of security, scare them with TV, and now there's a lot of people are very upset, very angry, and I feel it in the driving, like people swerving, they pass on the right, and it started to irritate me, and it's like, I've got to not participate in this. We're going to get into a car accident. And I live in a world, sometimes I say things, and then my family members, oh, it's not that bad. I think they're trying to help, but see, there's that invalidation. If they said, boy, it is scary, it doesn't mean I'm going to live in that fear. It's just, or it is rough. I just need the validation to be able to problem solve. Otherwise, we just polarize. And if I do the same thing to them, then it just polarizes. Anyway, I'm on my way to try to get to my office to have a doctor appointment through the phone with my mom. And I'm driving the speed limit. There's a whole bunch of cars, and I need to slow down anyway. And this I can say Ford Explorer was just tailgating me. You can tell like the car was mad, and it was all black in the windows, and it's like, oh my gosh, please don't do that. And the person, and I'll say the guy, sideswiped me, just decided to make a lane, and I heard a clunk on the car. Was I mad or frightened? I was a little bit more mad, like really, really, this is what it's come to. So I move over and pull into the lane to follow them. I will admit I took a quick picture of the license plate because it's like, don't drive like that. Don't. Anyway, I wasn't that mad, but I was just like, really, this will be interesting to see where this goes. And I didn't really even think, what if the guy's bigger than me? Thankfully, the person pulled over. We got out. It was a woman. She was upset. She wasn't crying. She was a little bit shaky. I felt angry, but you have to, this is, you have to stay civil. You have to stay in your best part of your mind. I'm not any shining example of this, but I want to share it because it's a good story. I looked at everything. There wasn't anything on the car. I think her flexible side mirror hit mine or something like that. I said, well, and I was stern. I said, the good news is you stopped. That was the right thing to do. And the other good thing is that there's no damage and we're safe. I just said we should just be really careful, and she used the explanation that she was rushing to work. My experience of the way the behavior of the car looked like, she was mad because she thought I should drive faster. But anyway, that's me doing that. But it made me think, how else could this have gone? Like, really, there's just so much drama in the world. Do we really need this? There's so much good in that. Like, one is she got to go free, I got to go free, no damage done. I can let it go. I share that also, is just be real safe and careful out there. It's scary out there. You have unprecedented numbers of people with economic hardship. They're depressed, they're anxious. People are using maybe more substances, alcohol, and drugs than before. And then you have rioting in the streets. So if you see that kind of behavior, does it affect us? I'm not sure. So yeah, I say that as stay safe, stay sane, try to keep balance, take care of yourself, breathe deeply. I hope you understand, like, when we're in our right mind. By the way, on that last example, if I wasn't in my right mind, I could have been angry at this poor person. I could have been scarier and not let it go. My family could testify to that. Like, I get into this sense of justice. I can be right. Is that going to help anything? I'm right and you're wrong. I think it's the same Saint Silouan who said, you can have a right. You can be right about something but be wrong. And I think that's common knowledge. If how we send our message is so ugly, it's not going to be heard. So I think gentleness, peacefulness, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God. I pondered that lately, like being more peaceable. That's what the world wants, by the way. People want peace. They may want all the riches in the world, but deep down, why would they want to feel good? They want to feel happy. But they could have all that and not have peace. They may want the riots to stop or the pandemic to end or the government to back off. Why do they want that? Deep down, they want peace. The problem is we can get those things. I could almost guarantee you from my own sordid life is that I could get those things. I mean, this is sad to say. I could get those things and be unhappy 2 or 3 weeks later. I've had things where I've had surgeries and hardships, and I think, okay, I'm happy that this is beginning to be over, and try to ride that wave of peacefulness and patience and being thankful that my back surgeries are over. And then I'm mad about something else. So I think the lesson there is that we have to, regardless of when things are good or things are bad, continue to look inward and try to find the peace that God gives us so freely if we just ask Him for it. But in doing so, we have to be purified. We have to have these anger and resentments and fear and bitterness removed. My encouragement is, if anybody struggles with those, continue to look into, well, Christianity. Look into God and He will remove those things. And then you'll be able to weather any storm, handle any situation. And you won't do it perfectly, but you will be purified in the process. So with that, I wish you well. Next week I'm going on vacation, so I might actually be streaming from the location place, which actually might be fun. So take it easy. See you later. I care about you guys. Take care. Bye-bye.